Welcome to the La Grim Reaper channel, where we bring you bone-chilling true stories from around the world. From haunted houses to unexplained disappearances, we have it all. So turn off the lights, grab a blanket, and get ready for a scare. In the sweltering heat of the summer of 2017, I, Emily, a somewhat untamed teen with a soul yearning for adventure, found myself plopped in the middle of the renowned Pine Forest summer camp. Sure, the place was picture perfect, like one of those screensavers on a brand new computer. Emerald woods stretched in all directions, cradling a glimmering lake in its heart. But even that natural charm was wearing thin with the drudgery of camp life. I was stuck in a seemingly endless loop of arts and crafts, canoeing, and sing-alongs. I wanted a real adventure, not just some run-of-the-mill summer camp experience. My only partner in crime in the sea of uniformity was my bestie, Lily. Lily and I were the kind of friends you read about in books, the ones who finish each other's sentences and know each other's favorite ice cream flavor, the inseparable kind. She was the Watson to my Holmes, my trusted sidekick in every crazy plan, every daring exploit. As the moon took center stage in the black velvet sky, I glanced at Lily, her eyes sparkling with anticipation and apprehension. We were bunked in our sleeping bags, pretending to sleep while the camp around us snored softly. It was time for our adventure. "Ready for some real fun, Lils?" I whispered, barely containing my excitement. With a nod and a shared grin, we slipped out of our bags and snuck out of the cabin, the thrill of our covert mission sending waves of adrenaline coursing through our veins. With the beam of our flashlights as our guide, we treaded into the forest, the deafening silence punctuated only by the crunch of dry leaves under our feet and the occasional hoot of an owl. Shadows danced as the light flickered on gnarled tree trunks, the woods coming alive with secrets of their own. My heart pounded in my chest, a rhythm matching the symphony of the nocturnal creatures around us. Lily, walking next to me, mirrored my thrill, her wide eyes reflecting the glow of the moon. As we pushed deeper, the glimmering moonlight caught something unusual, a speck of a structure peering through the dense curtain of foliage. We exchanged a glance, curiosity glinting in our eyes. Hesitant, yet driven, we brushed away the branches, our flashlights piercing the darkness. And there it was, a cabin that was as ancient as the woods themselves. Weather-beaten and shrouded in an ominous aura, the cabin stood silent and grim, its broken windows gaping like eyeless sockets, and the door hanging precariously by one hinge. Overgrown vines crisscrossed its time-worn wooden facade, attempting to mask the decrepitude. I reached for the crooked handle of the cabin door, my hand trembling slightly. It gave way with an eerie creak that resonated through the silent woods. Lily and I shared a fleeting look, our hearts beating in unison, before stepping into the unknown. The air inside was heavy with the scent of old wood and something else. Lived in. Our flashlights sliced through the gloom, throwing grotesque, dancing shadows on the walls. The single-room cabin was cramped and cluttered. I realized it was far from abandoned. My heart pounded louder in my chest. A sleeping bag crumpled and recently used was strewn on the floor. Scattered around it were empty food cans and wrappers, a silent testament to recent meals. A pile of clothes, worn but clean, was shoved into a corner. It was as if someone had hastily tried to make this decrepit cabin a home. But it was the pictures that really made my blood run cold. Positioned in the center of a small wooden table were stacks of photos. I picked up a couple, my flashlight illuminating the glossy surface. They were pictures of us, the campers, candid shots taken from afar. Lily was reading by the lakeside, me during the sack race. The realization that we'd been watched, our everyday activities documented by someone hiding out here, was like a punch in the gut. I felt Lily's hand grip mine, her fingers icy. She'd seen them too. The pictures were undeniable proof that someone lurking in this hidden cabin was intruding on our safe, mundane camp life. The thought was terrifying. Does this mean someone's been spying on us?" Lily stuttered, her voice barely above a whisper. I nodded, unable to speak, the pictures in my hand burning a hole through my palm. The sense of unease grew stronger, our adventure morphing into a nightmare. Neither spoke as we took in the haunting reality. our adventurous spirits quashed by the chilling discovery. It was no longer about the thrill, the fun. It was about our safety and the well-being of our fellow campers. The journey back to the camp was a blur. Each snap of a twig or rustle of leaves amplified our fear tenfold. Our flashlights slicing through the darkness with renewed urgency. We raced through the forest, its once enchanting atmosphere now filled with an invisible threat that chased us back to safety. Bursting into the camp office, we spilled out our discovery in frantic, disjointed sentences, our breaths coming out in ragged gasps. The counselor on duty stared at us, his eyes widening in disbelief as he tried to piece together our tale. The photographs we'd brought back served as chilling evidence. He swiftly roused the camp manager, his expression grave. In the wee hours, the camp was a flurry of hushed voices and hurried footsteps. The authorities were called, their heavy boots and flashing lights in alien sight against the quiet backdrop of the camp. There was no sleep to be had, not when the reality of our situation had turned our haven into a crime scene. The local police combed the surrounding woods, their dogs sniffing the trails we had blazed in our midnight adventure. The officers' stern faces and terse commands stripped away any illusion of normalcy, and our earlier boredom was replaced with a pulsating fear that gripped the camp. As the sun peeked over the horizon, the camp was awash in the harsh light of reality. The investigation was in full swing. The woods that had served as our playground were now a taped-off area. Officers walked in and out of the cabin, their gloved hands carrying out bags of what we could only assume was evidence. By the next day, we had a name for the cabin's occupant, Frank, an ex-camp counselor. He'd been booted out the previous year for reasons none of us were privy to. The cops tracked him down, the dog sniffing out his grimy hideout just a stone's throw from the cabin. Frank hadn't been gone long, probably spooked when we had stumbled upon his secret dwelling. Imagine that a man that we had once known sitting around the same campfires, teaching us how to pitch a tent, was the same man who'd been creeping around the woods and snapping those photos. It sent shivers down my spine just thinking about it. Lily and I exchanged glances as we watched the police cart off boxes from his hideout. We were both thinking the same thing. We had known this guy. Word had it that he'd been let go for some sort of misconduct, a term vague enough to drive wild speculation among the campers. But after finding his stash of pictures, no one doubted that it must have been serious. The police found him hunched over in a crude shelter made from branches and a tarp not too far from the cabin. Apparently, Frank didn't put up much of a fight. The cops cuffed him, his grubby face twisted in what could only be described as resentment, as he was led out of the forest and into the waiting police cars. There was an eerie silence in the camp as Frank was driven away. The sight of the familiar figure being carted off in handcuffs was chilling. It felt like we were characters in one of those horror flicks we used to watch back home. Only this was real, and Frank was the monster. There was a morbid fascination in watching the details unravel. The once familiar face of a counselor morphed into a chilling portrait of a stalker living right under our noses. It was the stuff of nightmares, an experience none of us signed up for, but one that was thrust upon us nonetheless. In the coming days, the security tightened up around the area like a coiled snake. No more late-night walks, no more straying far off during activities. The counselors became ever watchful, their eyes scanning the woods as if expecting Frank to pop up any minute. Then came the reassuring talks, the campfire gatherings where counselors told us that we were safe now, that they'd protect us. I appreciated their efforts, but those words held little comfort. In between, the counselors organized team-building activities, games, and icebreakers, desperately trying to distract us from keeping our minds off the unspeakable events. I could see the strain in their eyes, the effort to put up a brave front. It was exhausting and reassuring all at once. They were fighting to reclaim the camp's innocence, one we'd lost the moment we set foot inside that cabin. And in all this, there was a silver lining, a glimmer of hope. There was recognition. Suddenly, Lily and I were not just thrill-seeking, rule-breaking girls anymore. We were the brave ones who discovered Frank's hideout. The camp staff applauded our courage, though I'm not sure courageous was the right word. We'd been terrified, acting more out of a primal need to protect ourselves and our friends, rather than any heroic impulse. The rest of the campers looked at us differently. We were the ones who'd walked straight into a horror story and emerged on the other side. And while it felt strange to be lauded for something that happened by sheer accident, it also brought us closer together. We became part of the camp's lore, our names whispered around campfires. It was a chilling honor that we'd trade for the mundane in a heartbeat.
We hope you enjoyed our spine-tingling stories. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to our channel to stay updated on our latest uploads. Until next time, sweet dreams, if you can sleep at all.